Emily Foster had just gotten home from a long day at work. It had been one of those days when everything seemed to pile up. 2 kids, endless bills, a job that never seemed to end. It was exhausting. She just wanted to relax. She sank into the couch, kicked off her shoes, and pulled out her phone, trying to muster up the energy to send a text to her best friend. She needed some advice, a little comfort. But in the haze of exhaustion, she did something she hadn't meant to. She tapped out a message. "Hey, I really need your help with something. It's about the twins. They're driving me crazy. Please call me when you get a chance." She hit send. But, of course, she didn't send it to her best friend. She sent it to Nathaniel Brooks, the Billionaire CEO. She didn't even know who he was at first. All she knew was that he was the one who responded. A moment later, her phone buzzed. "Hello, Emily. It's Nathaniel. I think we need to talk about twins." Emily stared at the screen, her heart skipping a beat. She didn't know who this was. She didn't know why he was responding to her message. But something about his response felt different. She rubbed her eyes, thinking she had misread it. But there it was again. "We need to talk about twins." She wasn't sure what was going on, but she had to admit there was a curiosity creeping into her mind. Who was this man? Why was he texting her about something so personal? Nathaniel, of course, wasn't just any man. He was one of the most well-known billionaires in the country. Nathaniel Brooks, the CEO of a massive tech empire. He was a man who could have anyone, do anything, go anywhere. He lived in a world completely different from hers. She was a single mother, working hard every day just to make ends meet. Her life was about survival, and her twins, who were her whole world. Nathaniel's world was a far cry from hers. His life was built on luxury, power, and endless opportunities. But now, here he was, texting her about her twins. Emily's thumb hovered over the screen. Should she ignore it? Should she pretend it never happened? No. That wouldn't be like her. She took a deep breath, put her phone down, and dialed the number he had texted her from. The phone rang twice before he picked up. "Emily, I'm glad you called." Nathaniel's voice was deep and smooth, almost too perfect. "I know this might sound strange, but I think we need to talk about your twins." She wasn't sure what to say. Her mind raced. Why on earth was this billionaire, of all people, concerned about her children? Was this some kind of joke? "I don't know who you are, or what you want, but I think you have the wrong number," Emily said, her voice shaking slightly. Nathaniel chuckled softly. "I'm afraid that's not the case. I'm Nathaniel Brooks. I'm not sure how, but I came across information about your twins. I believe they might be part of something bigger than you realize." Emily froze. Twins? Bigger than she realized? Her heart started to race. She didn't know what to think. Was this a scam? Was this man just trying to get her attention? But his voice was too calm, too confident. And something in his words sent a shiver down her spine. "What do you know about them?" she asked before she could stop herself. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. "I think we need to talk in person," Nathaniel said. "I'll send a limo to pick you up in an hour. I think you'll want to hear what I have to say." Emily's mind was spinning. A limo? She was just a regular mom, struggling to keep things together. Why would a billionaire like Nathaniel Brooks send a limo for her? It didn't make sense. But despite the confusion, there was something in the back of her mind that told her this was important. This wasn't just some random mistake. This was something real. Something that could change everything. Emily sat in stunned silence, holding the phone to her ear. The words he had just spoken echoed in her mind. A limo? Why would Nathaniel Brooks, a man she had never met, send a limo for her? She could hardly process it. Her fingers hovered over the phone, her breath quickening. Everything about this situation felt surreal. But as the seconds ticked by, she realized that this wasn't just a prank. This was something bigger. Okay, she whispered to herself. I'll do it. She wasn't sure why she said it. Maybe it was because she was curious, maybe because there was something in Nathaniel's voice that made her feel like she had no choice. Either way, she had agreed. She put the phone down and rushed to grab her coat. She had no idea what she was walking into, but she had to find out. A limo pulled up to her apartment building exactly 1 hour later, just as promised. The black vehicle gleamed in the streetlights, and Emily stared at it for a moment, her heart pounding. She had never been in a limo before. It felt like something out of a movie. She swallowed her nerves and climbed inside. The inside was just as luxurious as the outside. Soft leather seats, ambient lighting, and a chilled bottle of water waiting for her. She sat down, trying to steady her breathing. It was going to be okay. She was just going to meet this man, hear what he had to say, and then go back to her life. Simple, right? The driver didn't say a word as the limo glided through the city streets, the lights of New York City flashing by. Emily couldn't stop thinking about what Nathaniel had said on the phone. He knew about her twins. How was that even possible? Was he somehow connected to her past? Or had he just found out by chance? The question swirled in her mind, but she couldn't come up with any answers. The car finally stopped in front of a large, sleek building. The lights inside shimmered like something from another world. This was a far cry from her tiny apartment and modest life. The door opened, and the driver helped her out of the car. She stood in front of the building for a moment, trying to calm her nerves before walking through the revolving door. Inside, the lobby was just as impressive as the exterior. Polished marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and a receptionist sitting at a sleek desk. It was the kind of place that made her feel small, like she didn't belong. "Ms. Foster," a voice called from behind her. She turned to see a tall man in a black suit standing at the entrance to a private elevator. His face was familiar, it was Nathaniel. His sharp jawline, piercing blue eyes, and confident smile made her feel even more out of place. "Come with me," he said in a calm voice. Emily followed him into the elevator. She had no idea what she was getting into, but she couldn't back out now. The elevator ride was short, but the silence was heavy. Nathaniel stood next to her, his presence commanding the space. Emily glanced at him, wondering what was going through his mind. He didn't look anything like she had imagined. There was something about him that was different. Something more than just the billionaire exterior. The elevator doors opened, and Emily stepped out into a spacious office, the kind you'd see in movies. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a stunning view of the city below. Nathaniel led her to a comfortable chair by a large desk. He took a seat across from her. "I know this must be overwhelming," he said, his tone surprisingly gentle. "But I need to explain everything. You're not here by chance. There's something about your twins that I believe could change everything." Emily's heart raced again. She couldn't stop herself from asking, "What do you mean by that?" Nathaniel leaned forward, his eyes locked onto hers. "I can't go into details just yet," he said. "But there's something you don't know. Something that connects your twins to something much bigger. And I believe it's something you'll want to know." Emily's mind was racing. She had no idea what he was talking about, but the seriousness in his voice told her this wasn't some kind of game. There was something real here. And somehow, she was the key to it. "I know this sounds crazy," Nathaniel continued, "but I need you to trust me. This isn't about me or you. It's about your children. The future of your family. And I think you'll see why once you hear the full story." Emily leaned back in her chair, her head spinning. This wasn't what she had expected when she agreed to meet him. But there was something about Nathaniel, about the way he spoke and carried himself, that made her feel like maybe, just maybe, she was on the verge of something that could change her life forever. Nathaniel's gaze never wavered as Emily sat across from him, her mind racing. There was a tension in the air, thick with anticipation. And confusion. She felt like she was sitting on the edge of a cliff, looking down into the unknown. She had always lived a quiet, unremarkable life, until now. Nathaniel Brooks, the billionaire CEO, was sitting in front of her, telling her that her children, her twins, were part of something much bigger. She had so many questions, but she couldn't even begin to sort through them. She needed answers. "I know you must be wondering what this is all about," Nathaniel said, his voice calm but firm. "But everything I'm about to tell you is important for the future of your children. This isn't just about them, though. It's about what they represent. It's about something that could change the course of your life, and their lives, forever." Emily felt a chill run down her spine. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "What are you talking about?" Nathaniel leaned back in his chair, his expression thoughtful. He seemed to be choosing his words carefully. "Your twins are special, Emily," he began, his tone measured. "Not in the way that most people think of as special, but in a way that has to do with something much larger. There's a reason why they're in your life. Something that goes beyond fate or chance." Emily's heart was pounding. She couldn't process what he was saying. It didn't make any sense. She was just a single mother, living in a small apartment, trying to raise her kids in the best way she knew how. How could her children be part of something bigger? How could they be special in a way she couldn't even comprehend? Nathaniel continued, his eyes locking onto hers. "I've been involved in a project for years now, something that most people would never even dream of. It's not something I can easily explain, but I'll try to keep it simple. Your twins are a key part of something important, something that has the potential to change the future of this country, maybe even the world." Emily blinked, trying to make sense of his words. This was starting to sound like one of those conspiracy theories she had heard about on TV, people talking about secret projects, government plans, and things that seemed too far-fetched to be real. But Nathaniel didn't look like someone who would entertain ridiculous ideas. He looked like a man who was completely serious, who had spent years working on something far beyond the average person's comprehension. "I know this sounds insane," Nathaniel continued, "but the truth is, your twins are connected to a project that involves some of the brightest minds in the world. These children have a role to play in something that could alter the course of history." Emily shook her head, her mind struggling to catch up. "I don't understand. What are you saying?" Nathaniel's expression softened, just for a moment. He leaned forward slightly, his voice gentle but insistent. "I'm saying that your twins are part of a plan, one that goes back years. Their genetic makeup, their connection to certain events, it all leads back to something I've been working on. It's not just coincidence. And it's not something you can ignore." Emily's heart raced as she tried to make sense of what he was telling her. A plan? A project? Something that had to do with her children? She had no idea what to think. She was just trying to survive day by day, keep her kids safe and happy. She didn't have time for whatever this was. But the look in Nathaniel's eyes told her that this wasn't just a passing conversation. This was something that was happening right now. And it involved her. "I know this is a lot to take in," Nathaniel said, standing up and walking over to the window, his back turned to her. "But you need to understand something. Your children are important, Emily. More than you can possibly imagine. And you need to be prepared for what's coming." Emily stood up, feeling the weight of the moment pressing down on her. She walked over to the window, standing beside him, looking out at the sprawling city below. It was beautiful, but it felt so distant, so out of reach. Her life was so far from this world of billionaires and powerful men who could change the course of history. And yet, here she was, standing next to Nathaniel Brooks, listening to him tell her that her children were part of something far bigger than she had ever imagined. "What do I need to do?" she asked, her voice quiet but determined. Nathaniel turned to her, his eyes intense. "For now, just keep your eyes open. Be aware of what's happening around you. And when the time comes, you'll have to make a choice. A choice that will change everything for you, for your children, and for the future." Emily didn't know what kind of choice Nathaniel was talking about, but she felt the weight of his words settle in her chest. She had no idea what the future held, but she knew one thing for sure: her life would never be the same again. The following days felt like a blur to Emily. Every time she closed her eyes, Nathaniel's words echoed in her mind. Your twins are part of something bigger. A choice that will change everything. It felt like a dream. A nightmare. A responsibility that was suddenly thrust upon her. It wasn't just about raising her children anymore. It was about a mystery, a plan, something that could impact everything she thought she knew about her life. She had no idea what Nathaniel was really talking about. Was it all true? Or was he playing some game with her? She wasn't sure what to believe, but something inside her told her that Nathaniel wasn't the type of person who would waste his time on a wild goose chase. The days passed, and Emily tried to go about her normal life. She picked up the kids from school, made dinner, helped with homework, everything that had always filled her days. But there was a constant weight on her shoulders, a nagging feeling that she couldn't shake. Her children, her precious twins, were somehow tied to something much larger. She tried to ignore it, but it was always there, lurking in the back of her mind. One afternoon, as she sat at the kitchen table, her phone buzzed. It was a text from Nathaniel. We need to meet again. There's something urgent. Emily's heart skipped a beat. She had hoped, maybe foolishly, that things might calm down, that the bizarre encounter with Nathaniel would fade into memory. But no, it seemed it was just beginning. She stared at the message for a moment before typing back. What's going on? The response came quickly. It's time to talk more seriously about what's ahead. We'll need to be prepared. Emily's fingers trembled as she typed. When and where? Nathaniel didn't waste time. I'll send a car for you. Be ready at 6. She put her phone down, feeling a mix of fear and anticipation. What was he going to tell her now? As the hours ticked by, she felt like time was moving in slow motion. Her mind raced with questions. What did he mean by "be prepared"? What could he possibly be preparing her for? She didn't know. But she had a sinking feeling that once she met with Nathaniel again, there would be no turning back. The car arrived right on time, and Emily got in, her nerves on edge. The driver didn't say much, just a polite nod as she got in. The city lights flashed by, but her mind was elsewhere. It wasn't long before the car stopped in front of another luxurious building. This one was even more impressive than the last. She stepped out of the car, her heart racing. Nathaniel was already there, waiting for her. As they walked through the building's grand entrance, she couldn't help but feel like she was walking into another world. This wasn't her life. This wasn't her world. But somehow, it was hers now. Nathaniel led her to a private office. The space was sleek and modern, with a large desk and floor-to-ceiling windows offering a view of the city. Emily felt out of place, but she didn't have time to dwell on it. Nathaniel took a seat across from her, his expression serious. I'm glad you came, he said. This is important. We need to make sure we're on the same page. Emily nodded, trying to calm her nerves. What is it? What's going on? Nathaniel leaned forward, his gaze never leaving hers. I've been doing everything I can to protect your twins, he said. But now, the stakes are higher. There are people out there who want to take advantage of what they represent. We can't let that happen. Emily's mind was spinning. People? What do you mean, people? Nathaniel's eyes darkened. There are organizations, people with power, who will stop at nothing to control what your children have. We need to make sure they're safe. We need to get ahead of this. Emily felt a cold shiver run down her spine. Are you saying that my children are in danger? Nathaniel's expression softened. But his words were still heavy. Yes. But it's not just about danger. It's about control. About what they can do, what they can offer. Your twins are key to something bigger than anything you've ever imagined. And there are people who will do anything to exploit that. Emily felt a lump form in her throat. She had always known her children were special, but this? This was something else entirely. I don't understand, she whispered. Nathaniel sat back in his chair, his hand steepled in front of him. I know this is overwhelming. But you need to trust me. I'm not asking you to understand everything right now. But you need to be ready. The time is coming when your twins will need to step into a world they've never known. And you'll need to protect them from it. Emily's heart pounded in her chest. She didn't know how to process any of this. She had come here looking for answers, but all she had were more questions. And a terrifying new reality that she wasn't sure she was ready for. Nathaniel stood up and walked to the window, looking out over the city. I've made arrangements. We'll have the resources we need to protect them, but you need to be prepared. There's no turning back. Emily stood up too, her legs feeling unsteady beneath her. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. This was her life now. And she had to face it head-on, no matter what came next. The days after her meeting with Nathaniel passed by in a blur, each one feeling heavier than the last. Emily couldn't shake the feeling that something was changing, something that she wasn't quite prepared for. She had always thought of herself as a mother first, her world revolving around her twins, providing them with everything she could. But now, everything was different. Nathaniel's words haunted her, your children are part of something bigger. You need to be prepared. Her phone buzzed again, snapping her out of her thoughts. It was a text from Nathaniel. We need to talk. Meet me at my office tomorrow at 10 a.m. Emily stared at the screen, unsure of how to feel. Was this more of the same? Another meeting to discuss this strange, mysterious project involving her children? She wasn't sure. She was ready for whatever Nathaniel had in store, but deep down, she knew she had no choice. If her children were truly part of something bigger, something important, she needed to understand it, no matter how difficult it was to process. She spent the night preparing herself mentally, knowing that this was a turning point. Whatever Nathaniel was about to tell her, she had to be ready for it. The next morning, Emily arrived at Nathaniel's office building once again. As she stepped out of the car, she couldn't help but feel a sense of déjà vu. Everything about this world, this high-powered, wealthy world, felt foreign to her. But as she walked through the lobby, a strange sense of determination began to rise within her. She wasn't just here to learn more about Nathaniel's project anymore. She was here for her children. She needed to know what they were truly a part of. Nathaniel was waiting for her in his office, as calm and collected as ever. His demeanor didn't give away much, but Emily could tell he had been preparing for this meeting as much as she had. I'm glad you came, he said, his voice steady. I know it's a lot to take in, but we're running out of time. The sooner we start moving, the better. Emily took a deep breath and nodded, sitting down across from him. She could feel the weight of the conversation pressing down on her already. What's going to happen now? She asked, her voice steady but her mind racing. Nathaniel leaned forward slightly, his eyes serious. We're going to start preparing your children. You'll need to take some steps to ensure their safety and well-being. But more importantly, you'll need to understand what they represent. What they can do. Emily's heart raced. What they can do? What do you mean? Nathaniel's expression didn't waver, but there was a new intensity in his eyes. I told you before, your twins are key. They have a role to play in something far bigger than anything we've seen. We can't let anyone take advantage of what they can offer. Emily's mind spun. What could they possibly do? They're just kids. My kids. Nathaniel nodded, his voice softening. I understand this is hard to believe. But what you need to understand is that your twins have a unique gift. Something that can change the world. We've been monitoring them for a while now, and we believe their potential is unlike anything we've ever seen before. Emily blinked, trying to process what he was saying. A gift? What kind of gift? Nathaniel hesitated for a moment before answering. I can't go into all the details yet, but I will tell you this, your twins are part of something much larger than you realize. And you need to be ready for what's coming. People are already watching them. And they won't stop until they get what they want. The weight of his words hit her like a ton of bricks. Emily felt a lump form in her throat. She had always known her children were special, but this? This was something beyond anything she could have ever imagined. Are they in danger? She asked, her voice shaking. Nathaniel's gaze softened, but the seriousness in his tone remained. Yes, but it's more than just danger. It's about what they represent. And what people will do to control that. Emily felt the tears welling up in her eyes. I don't know what to do, she whispered, her voice breaking. I'm just a mom. I don't know anything about this. I don't know how to protect them. Nathaniel stood up and walked over to the window, looking out at the city below. He stood there for a moment, then turned back to her. You're not alone in this. I'll help you. But you need to trust me. You need to understand that the world your children are about to enter is dangerous. And it's up to you to protect them. You'll need to be ready for anything. Emily wiped away the tears that had begun to fall. She didn't know how she was supposed to protect her children from something so vast, so unknown. But she knew one thing for sure. She would do whatever it took. I'll do whatever it takes, she said, her voice firm. Nathaniel gave her a slight nod. Good. We'll take it one step at a time. But the most important thing right now is to be ready. Things are about to change. And when they do, you'll need to be there for your children more than ever before. Emily nodded, feeling a mix of fear and determination building inside. She wasn't sure what was coming next, but she knew that her life, and her children's lives, would never be the same again. The following week, Emily found herself living in a whirlwind. Every day, new information about Nathaniel's project arrived, and with each passing moment, the reality of the situation began to sink in. She had always known that her life wasn't ordinary, but now it felt as if she was stepping into a world she had no preparation for. Her children, her twins, were more than just kids. They were connected to something massive, something that could change everything. Nathaniel had been clear, they needed protection, and it was up to her to make sure they were ready for whatever was coming. She spent every moment she could researching, trying to piece together what she could about the project Nathaniel had mentioned. She found it hard to focus on anything else. Her twins had always been her priority, but now she was questioning everything. Who were these people that Nathaniel warned her about? What did they want from her children? And what did her kids have that made them so important? Every time she asked Nathaniel, he only gave vague responses. You'll know when the time comes, he would say. Just trust me. Emily hated the uncertainty, but there was a strange comfort in Nathaniel's presence. He wasn't like other people. He was calm, collected, and everything he said seemed to hold weight. Yet, no matter how much she trusted him, she still couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. One evening, as she tucked her children into bed, she stood over them, looking at their innocent faces. She couldn't help but feel a pang of guilt. They didn't deserve to be part of something like this. They deserved to grow up without fear, without being dragged into a world they couldn't understand. But there was nothing she could do to change that. It was already happening. The next morning, Emily was scheduled to meet with Nathaniel again. She had been preparing herself mentally, but nothing could quite prepare her for what she was about to hear. When she arrived at his office, he was waiting for her, as always, looking sharp and composed. You're here, he said, his tone surprisingly soft. I've been thinking about what we discussed, and I think it's time to take the next step. Emily sat down across from him, her heart beating faster. She had a feeling that today was going to change everything. What's the next step? She asked, trying to steady her breath. Nathaniel looked at her for a moment, his expression unreadable. Then, he spoke in a low, deliberate voice. I've arranged for you to have a team of specialists, experts who can help guide you through what's to come. They'll be there to assist with the twins, to help you understand how to keep them safe, and how to prepare them for what's next. Emily felt a knot form in her stomach. Specialists? What did that mean? Who were these people? And why did she feel like everything was becoming more complicated with each new detail Nathaniel revealed? You're going to have to be vigilant, Emily, Nathaniel continued, his voice steady. There are forces out there that will try to get to them, and they'll stop at nothing. But you can't do this alone. These experts will teach you everything you need to know. They'll help you protect your children. Emily nodded, but inside, a sense of dread started to build. How much more could she handle? Her entire world was spinning out of control, and she was trying to keep it together for the sake of her children. Who are these experts? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Nathaniel paused before answering. They're people who have been involved in this project from the very beginning. They know more than anyone about what your twins are connected to. They're your best chance at ensuring their safety. Emily's mind raced. She had never asked for this life, never wanted to be involved in something so dangerous, so far beyond anything she had ever known. But now, she was in it. She was in it deep, and there was no turning back. What do I need to do? She asked, feeling a sense of helplessness creeping in. Nathaniel stood up, his gaze unwavering. I need you to trust them. I need you to trust me. And most importantly, I need you to trust yourself. You're stronger than you think, Emily. I know this is hard. But you're capable of more than you realize. The most important thing is that you stay focused and be there for your children. The rest will fall into place. Emily felt a rush of emotion surge through her, fear, confusion, and a strange sense of determination. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about her children, her twins, and their future. She had to do whatever it took to protect them, even if she didn't understand all the details. I will, she said, her voice filled with quiet resolve. Nathaniel nodded, his expression softening for the first time. I believe in you, Emily. And I'll be here, every step of the way. But you have to be ready. The world they're about to enter is not the world you've known. It's bigger, and it's more dangerous. But it's also a world that needs them. And it's a world that's waiting for them to step into it. Emily stood up, her heart heavy but her resolve stronger than before. She wasn't sure what was coming next, but she knew one thing for sure. Whatever it was, she would face it head on. For her children, she would fight. The next few days felt like a blur for Emily. She was constantly juggling between her normal life and the new world Nathaniel had introduced her to. Every time she looked at her twins, a wave of uncertainty would wash over her. Her children were not just kids, they were part of something bigger, something important. She had no idea what that meant, but she couldn't ignore it. Nathaniel had made it clear they were in danger, and she had to be prepared for whatever was coming. Emily couldn't help but feel overwhelmed. She had always been a mother first, trying her best to provide for her children and give them a safe and happy life. But now, everything was changing. Nothing about her life felt ordinary anymore. It felt like a dangerous, high-stakes game, and she was right in the middle of it. The team of specialists Nathaniel had arranged for her arrived a few days later. They were professionals, calm and efficient, but their presence only made Emily feel more out of place. They had a way of speaking that was foreign to her, using terms and jargon that made her head spin. They talked about protocols, security measures, and strategies for keeping the twins safe. But what was most unsettling was their certainty. They acted like they already knew everything, like they had been waiting for this moment for a long time. Emily felt like an outsider in her own life. The specialists would visit her regularly, providing her with briefings and instructions, but no matter how much they told her, Emily still had more questions than answers. What exactly were they preparing the twins for? And why was she the one they had chosen to protect them? She wasn't special. She wasn't important. But her children? They were somehow connected to a world she didn't understand. One afternoon, after a particularly long meeting with the specialists, Emily found herself alone in her apartment, looking at her twins. They were playing together in the living room, completely unaware of the weight of the world that had suddenly fallen on their shoulders. It broke her heart. They were so innocent, so full of life. She couldn't bear the thought of them being involved in something dangerous, something that might change their lives forever. But she knew that no matter how much she wanted to shield them from it, there was no going back. The world had already changed for them. The world had already changed for her. Later that evening, she received another message from Nathaniel. "We need to meet. There's something I need to tell you." Her heart raced. It had only been a few days since their last meeting, and every time she saw his name on her phone, she felt a mixture of anticipation and dread. She quickly texted back, "When and where?" The response was immediate, "Meet me at the usual place." 9 p.m. The usual place. Nathaniel's office. Emily didn't have to think twice. She put on her coat, kissed her twins goodnight, and left the apartment, her mind already spinning with questions. What was Nathaniel going to tell her this time? What had changed in such a short time? When she arrived at Nathaniel's office building, she was met by the usual security team, who escorted her to the elevator. The tension in the air was palpable. Every step she took felt like she was walking deeper into a world she wasn't sure she belonged in. Nathaniel was waiting for her in his office, standing by the window as usual. He didn't greet her with his usual calm smile. Instead, his face was serious, even grim. "Emily," he said as she stepped into the room, "I've been monitoring the situation. There's something you need to know." Emily felt a cold shiver run down her spine. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice steady despite the fear growing inside her. Nathaniel turned to face her, his eyes filled with urgency. "The people I warned you about, the ones who want to control your children, they're getting closer. They've started making moves. We don't have much time." Emily's stomach dropped. "What do you mean? What's happening?" Nathaniel's expression hardened. "They're moving faster than we expected. And now they know about the twins. They know what they can do. And they'll stop at nothing to take control." Emily's breath caught in her throat. "What can they do?" Nathaniel's voice lowered, almost a whisper. "That's the part one can't explain fully. But I can tell you this, they're a key to something bigger. And the people after them, they want that key." Emily felt a lump form in her throat. She had always known that her children were special, but this? This was something beyond her comprehension. Something that terrified her. "What do we do?" she asked, her voice barely audible. Nathaniel looked at her, his eyes intense. "We move quickly. We get them ready. You'll have to take charge, Emily. You're the only one who can protect them now." Emily felt the weight of his words settle over her. It was up to her. She was the one who had to protect her children. And she had no idea how to do it. But there was no turning back now. The next morning, Emily couldn't shake the feeling of dread that had settled deep inside her. Nathaniel had said they were running out of time, but she couldn't understand why things had escalated so quickly. She had barely begun to process everything that had happened, and now she was expected to prepare her children for something she didn't even fully understand. She spent the morning with her twins, trying to keep things as normal as possible. But every time she looked at them, she saw the weight of Nathaniel's words. They're a key to something bigger. She didn't know what that meant, but she knew one thing, her children were in danger, and she had to protect them. The specialists Nathaniel had arranged for her continued their visits, giving her more instructions, more protocols to follow. They trained her in everything from emergency response to securing their home and assets. But it was the emotional toll that was hardest to bear. Every conversation seemed to remind her that her children were not just ordinary kids. They were part of something vast, something that involved people who would stop at nothing to control them. She hadn't asked for this life, but it was hers now. Every night, as she tucked her twins into bed, she would kiss their foreheads and whisper words of comfort, trying to shield them from the growing storm around them. But deep down, she knew that the world they were about to enter was something they would never be prepared for. That evening, after a particularly exhausting day of training and preparations, Emily received another message from Nathaniel. "We need to meet," it said. Her heart raced. It had only been a few days since their last meeting, and every time Nathaniel sent a message, it brought a new wave of anxiety. What was coming next? What did he want now? She texted back, "Where and when?" The response came quickly. "My office. 9 p.m. Emily felt a tight knot in her stomach. It felt like time was slipping through her fingers. The uncertainty, the fear, it was all becoming too much. But she couldn't back away now. Her children's future was at stake, and she was the only one who could protect them. When she arrived at Nathaniel's office that evening, she was met by the usual security team, and the tension in the air was palpable. It was as if everyone knew something she didn't. Nathaniel was waiting for her, his expression more serious than she had ever seen before. "Emily," he said as she stepped into the room, "this is more urgent than I thought. We've reached a turning point." Emily felt a wave of anxiety wash over her. She could see it in Nathaniel's eyes, the concern, the urgency. "What's happening?" she asked, her voice tight. Nathaniel's face darkened. "The people we've been preparing for are closer than we expected. And now they know about the twins. They know exactly what they represent, and they're making their move." Emily's chest tightened. "What do you mean, making their move?" Nathaniel's gaze intensified. "They've started targeting your children. They're trying to find a way to get to them, to use them for their own purposes. And we need to act fast." Emily felt her knees weaken. She had feared this moment, but hearing the words made it all the more real. "What do I do?" she whispered. Nathaniel walked over to her, his voice calm but filled with authority. "You stay vigilant. You protect them with everything you have. I've arranged for additional resources to ensure their safety, but the key here is your preparation. You need to be ready for anything." Emily swallowed hard, her mind racing. "I don't know if I can do this," she said, her voice trembling. Nathaniel placed a hand on her shoulder, his touch firm but reassuring. "I know it's hard," he said softly. "But I believe in you. And I'll be here every step of the way. You're stronger than you think, Emily. You've already done more than most people could ever imagine. Now, you just need to trust yourself and your instincts." Emily looked up at him, feeling a mixture of fear and resolve. She wasn't sure if she was ready for the challenges ahead, but she knew one thing for sure: she would do whatever it took to protect her children. The meeting ended shortly after, but the weight of Nathaniel's words stayed with her long after she left the office. The world was changing, and there was no going back. As she walked out of the building, Emily took a deep breath, steeling herself for what was to come. She didn't know what the future held, but she was ready to face it, head-on, with everything she had, for the sake of her twins. The days following her meeting with Nathaniel were filled with tension and uncertainty. Emily tried to keep things as normal as possible for her twins, but the growing sense of danger was never far from her mind. Every time she looked at them, a part of her was filled with dread, knowing that the world they were entering was anything but ordinary. The specialists continued to work with her, teaching her how to keep her children safe and how to handle the situation they were all now a part of. But despite all the preparations, Emily still felt overwhelmed. Her life had been turned upside down, and no matter how much she learned, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was only scratching the surface of something much bigger. The pressure was mounting. Every night, she would lie awake, listening to the sound of her children sleeping peacefully in the next room, wondering how long that peace would last. One evening, after a particularly draining day of training, Emily received another message from Nathaniel. "We need to meet. There's been a change in the situation." Her heart skipped a beat. Every time she heard from him, it was like a storm was approaching. She quickly responded, "What's changed?" The message came back almost instantly. "I'll explain everything when you get here. 10 p.m. Be ready." Emily felt a wave of anxiety wash over her. It was like a ticking clock, each moment that passed brought her closer to the unknown. She had no idea what Nathaniel was going to tell her this time, but she couldn't ignore the urgency in his words. She quickly made arrangements for the twins, leaving them with a trusted neighbor, and headed to Nathaniel's office. When she arrived, the usual calm atmosphere in the building felt different, almost tense. She was escorted to Nathaniel's office, where he was waiting, standing by the large windows. His expression was more serious than she had ever seen it before. "Emily," he said, his voice low, "things are moving faster than we anticipated. We have a limited window to act." Emily's stomach tightened. "What's happening? What do you mean?" Nathaniel turned to face her, his eyes intense. "The people after your children, they're already closer than we thought. We've been tracking their movements, and they've made significant progress. We can't afford to waste any more time." Emily felt the weight of his words settle over her like a heavy burden. "What do we do?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Nathaniel stepped closer, his tone calm but filled with urgency. "You need to be ready for the next step. The specialists have been preparing you, but now it's time for you to take action. You'll have to move quickly, there's no time to hesitate." Emily nodded, trying to steady herself. "What kind of action?" Nathaniel took a deep breath before speaking again. "The time has come for your children to start understanding what they're a part of. We've protected them as much as we can up until now, but from this point forward, they need to be ready. They need to know what's at stake." Emily's heart pounded. "They're just kids," she said, her voice trembling. "How can they possibly understand any of this?" Nathaniel's gaze softened, but his words were firm. "I know this isn't easy, Emily. But they have to understand. We can't keep them in the dark any longer. The people after them aren't going to wait. And when the time comes, they'll need to step up." Emily's mind raced. Her children were so young, so innocent. How could they possibly comprehend the danger they were in? But Nathaniel was right. There was no more time to waste. The world they were about to enter was not one she could shield them from forever. "What do I need to do?" she asked, her voice steadying as she found her resolve. Nathaniel looked at her for a long moment, his expression unwavering. "You'll have to make them understand. You're the one they trust, Emily. You're the one they'll listen to. And you're the one who has to prepare them for what's ahead." Emily felt the weight of those words press down on her shoulders. She was their mother, their protector, and now she had to prepare them for something she didn't fully understand herself. But she couldn't back down. For their sake, she would do whatever it took. "I'll do it," she said, her voice firm with determination. Nathaniel nodded, his eyes filled with a mixture of respect and relief. "I know you will. You're stronger than you think, Emily. And you're not alone in this. We're all in this together." Emily nodded, but deep down, she knew that this was just the beginning. The hardest part was yet to come. But for her children, she was ready to face it all.